what if a traumatic memory isn't actually a memory at all? Today, we're going to dive into a really fascinating study that literally peers inside the brain to find out. We're going to break down how scientists are starting to uncover the neural secrets behind one of the most haunting parts of PTSD. So, here's the central question, the big mystery they're trying to solve. When someone with PTSD relives a traumatic event, is their brain just playing back a really sad memory? Or is something totally different happening on a brain level? This question, it really gets to the very heart of what this disorder is. You know, the researchers themselves put it perfectly. For people with PTSD, these events are not experienced as memories as such, but more as a present experience. Think about that. They don't have that faded, in-the-past quality of a recollection. It feels like it is happening right now, with all the original intensity, all the terror. So you might be wondering, how on earth do you even study something so deeply personal, so unique as a memory? Well, they came up with a really clever experimental setup to figure it out. Let's take a look at how they did it. Okay, so the team followed this really careful three-step process. First up, they collected the raw personal stories from everyone. Then, and this part is so important, they standardized them. They turned them into scripts to make sure things like length and sentence structure were all the same, so they could actually compare them fairly. And finally, the participants listened to these scripts of their own memories for the very first time, all while their brain activity was being scanned. The whole point of this was to ask a really fundamental question. Is there a link between a story's meaning and what the brain is actually doing? Like if two different people tell two different stories, but both are about losing a pet, would their brains show similar patterns? They wanted to see if the brain had a common signature for a certain kind of story. All right, so they have the setup, the experiment is running, and right away, the first major clue pops up. And it comes from a really critical part of the brain's memory system. What they found was a huge surprise. So to really get this, let's think about the hippocampus. You can picture it as the brain's librarian. Its whole job is to take all of our experiences, our life stories, give them a timestamp, put them on the right shelf, and basically file them away as memories that clearly, definitely belong to the past. And here's what they saw for those regular, sad, non-traumatic memories. The librarian was doing its job perfectly. When different people listened to stories with similar themes, say about the death of a loved one, the patterns in their hippocampus were remarkably similar. The filing system was working just like it was supposed to. But, and here is the massive twist, when it came to traumatic memories, the whole system just completely fell apart. Even when two people listened to scripts about a similar trauma, like a car crash, the brain patterns in their hippocampus were totally different. They were disorganized, unique to each person. There was no shared neural signature at all. What this tells us is that the hippocampus, our expert memory librarian, completely fails to properly file away traumatic events. It can't organize them into a coherent story that gets recognized as a past experience. That memory is basically left out of the library's catalog entirely. And get this, the patterns were so distinct that the researchers could train a computer to only look at the brain activity. And just from that data, it could tell the difference between a sad and a traumatic memory with over 66% accuracy. That's wild. It's a powerful signal that the brain is treating these two events in fundamentally different ways. Okay, so that leads to the next huge question, right? If the memory librarian, the hippocampus, isn't filing the traumatic memory away, then where is it being processed? What part of the brain is actually handling this unfiled, present tense experience? Well, the scientists then turned their attention to another region, the posterior cingulate cortex, or PCC. And if the hippocampus is the brain's librarian, you can think of the PCC as the brain's internal storyteller. It's the hub for our sense of self, for daydreaming, for processing that ongoing narrative of our lives. And right here, they discovered a really startling link. The more severe a person's PTSD symptoms were, the stronger the connection was between their traumatic story and the activity in this storyteller region. It was a direct, measurable correlation. So the crucial point is this. The brain's internal storyteller, the PCC, was treating that traumatic event not as some filed-away memory from the past, but as a current, ongoing part of that person's present tense experience. It was part of their right now internal narrative. So let's connect all the dots. This all builds to a truly groundbreaking conclusion about what a traumatic memory really is and what that means for people who are living with PTSD. When you put these clues together,
a remarkably clear picture starts to emerge. Okay, so clue 1, the hippocampus fails to file the memory away. So clue 2, the PCC, the hub of our internal world, takes over and processes it like it's happening right now. And the link? The more the PCC does this, the worse the person's symptoms are. This is basically the neuroscientific explanation for that feeling of re-experiencing that defines PTSD.
This all leads to the study's main conclusion, straight from the authors themselves. A traumatic memory isn't just a strong memory or a bad memory. It is, and I'm quoting here, a fundamentally different kind of neural and cognitive event. It's not just a variation on a theme. It's like a completely different song being played by a different part of the brain's orchestra. So this research leaves us with a really profound and honestly hopeful question. Now that we can actually see how trauma hijacks the brain's filing system, it opens up brand new avenues for treatment. Maybe the most effective therapies will be the ones that can help the brain's librarian, the hippocampus, to finally do its job, to take that traumatic event and at long last file it away firmly in the past.